Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Tuesday. We got Buddy Martin here in just a second. We're going to have Chris Harry, who covers a lot of spring sports. He'll talk a little bit about basketball, obviously, if you missed it. Walter Clayton Jr. and Will Richard are returning to the Gators, which is a good thing. Very good players.
Yeah.
And then he covers the softball team as well, which they are already in Oklahoma City. They traveled out there yesterday. Thoughts and prayers to the Bill Walton family. If you missed it, he passed away at the age of 71, battling cancer. I was not even aware he was sick, but he was the Conference of Champions. And what's interesting is he passed away the day after the final sporting event in the Pac-12 conference. Let's go to the Titan Emerald Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, and it's our man Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show. You can hear him Monday through Friday, late night talk show host, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Good morning, Buddy. How you doing?
I'm your David Letterman to Johnny Carson. Good morning to you, Shane. Good to be with you. And yeah, the Bill Walton thing, nobody knew he was sick. That's the thing. Hardly ever, it seems like. And I wasn't really one of those guys who was sort of close to his career. When he was playing at UCLA, he didn't talk to anybody. And then, of course, he went to Portland, where he became a part of the weird group. And then he went to Boston and won a championship there. But I'll tell you, the impact of his death has been amazing. And the quotes just keep rolling in from people who are saying incredible things about Walton. His generosity, for a guy who was a recluse in college, an exact total opposite of John Wooden, yet they won 2 championships together. He was a guy that did so many things. Here's a quote today from Dr. J. Excuse me, this is the one from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Dr. J said some things earlier in the week. He said, he wasn't happy until he did everything he could to make everyone around him happy. He was the best of us. That's Kareem. So, yeah, RIP to Walton. He had quite a run as a player and then, of course, a broadcaster. He was different. And, those guys, think about he was actually closer to 7 feet tall, being talented, tall, and being weird and being a Grateful Dead aficionado. He was a different cat, touched a lot of people's lives. In the end, that's what counts, Shane.
Yeah, he was funny as hell when he broadcast. There's no question about that. I want to give a shout out because we didn't have a program yesterday. Hope everybody had a good day. Lacrosse, girls lacrosse loses a heartbreaker to Northwestern. Tie ball game right around. They had a weather delay, and then Northwestern took over. But shout out to them, man. They are a great group. Made a deep run, and boy, are they physical. Good gracious alive. That's the first time I really sat down and watched women's lacrosse at the collegiate level, and the physicality. Maggie Hall, Emily Heller, some of our girls, they put it on the line. So congratulations, a tremendous year for them for sure. And then yesterday, men's golf defending their national title, had to make the top 8 and was in the top 8 with supposedly the 3 easiest holes because they finished on the front side and just bogeyed all 3 of them and took us out of contention. So it was another great try, or however you want to phrase it, great defense. Would have been nice to be playing today, but just wasn't in the cards. That's golf. And congratulations to J.C. Deacon, Dudley Hart, and the rest of the kids on a tremendous year when you lose your 3 best players. Buddy, we're not going to pile on you here, but Joseph on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, says, is softball elite enough for you now, buddy?
Bring it on. I'm tired of all yak, whatever. You guys are great at taking things out of context. That's fine. Let me get back to lacrosse, and I'll respond to anybody who wants to come at me. That's fine. I never said they weren't a good team. I never said they didn't have a chance to win the championship. I said at the time when I said it, they lost a couple of games, key games, that weren't playing like an elite team. At this point in time, I'd have a hard time calling them an elite. I call them elite already. I've gone on the show and said, hey, look, they have become a elite team. The way they played, I watched every game, followed every game, and they had a tremendous season. And Walton did a terrific job. And although I was a little worried about that second game over the weekend, let me get back to lacrosse, the sport that I love the most. Okay, uh, we mentioned this on my show last night. Maggie Hall, I think you and I said, let's sign her up for middle linebacker to play in Florida. Man, she is really a baller. I loved how she played, taking that charge at the end of the game like she did, and she was really balling out. I think she's wonderful. But we didn't mention Danielle Pavanelli. She was also on the all tournament team. Both of them were, and this is kind of a new phenomenon. I do like the sport. I like watching lots of action in it. And women athletes seem to be garnering most of the attention these days, from basketball to lacrosse, whatever. So congratulations to them for getting to the finals. As you pointed out, they were tied, I think, 10-all when a rainstorm came, stopped the game. When they came back to play, Florida just never got it together, and Northwestern put a weapon on in the last 5 minutes. Yeah, great performances by Maggie Hall and Daniel Pavolini, and I think it's going to be for a while there's going to be some good lacrosse play, and I'll watch it every now and then, Shane.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not on TV a lot. That's the problem. It's only on
That's
TV
true.
in postseason. Uh, Brandon says, Facebook Live brought to you by Mellon. Tim Walton's body of work at UF has made them an elite softball program. I would agree with that. 12 trips to the World Series out of 20 years. That's elite to me. And two national titles and played
Let's
for the title
define
for
that.
5 times.
For a second, Shane, to get it straight. All right. So now, uh, how long does that elite tag last? And when a program starts going down under an elite coach, what is it when someone asks you, is the team is an elite program? The program doesn't stay elite forever, does it?
Well, I think it's been elite since he's been here. He's been here 20 years. You go to the World Series 12 times, you play for 5 national titles, you win 2 of them. Last year they did not make the World Series. It was a down year, but he had players didn't predict that didn't produce as he thought they would, so he went and got a new recruiting class. Next year's class is even better than this year's class. The key is keeping everybody on the roster through NIL and all that nonsense. So it'll be and look, here's the other thing, there are job openings in college softball that are coming open or already open, and we're going to have to pay Tim Walton for him to stay.
Okay, I get all that, but back to the definition of elite. And I'm not going to say much more about this. If you guys want to come at me and call it, I'll say what I think, no matter what, regardless at the time. Would you say that last year's basketball team, pick a sport, was an elite program? The
Yeah.
program once well, I mean, that's like what you're saying. When do you say, and when you have an off year and suddenly you're losing games that you don't lose, and you have not sustained the elite tag. So however you want to take that, they were not playing like an elite team. They certainly are now.
Well, again, our definition of elite is different. Reggie says Mary Wise has been at UF since the Spurrier days. Volleyball is 100% elite, and they've never won a title. I agree. But softball is freaking elite. There's no other way about it. When you go to the World Series over 60% of the time that you've been here, think about that. The World Series, we're not talking about postseason play, which they've been in every year. Um, and you play for 5 national titles. This year's team is very good. Somebody on here asked, how do we look a matchup against Oklahoma State? We played them earlier this year, lost here. It was a game that they put together when their tournament that they were at down in the Tampa area got canceled. Tim and Kenny Gajewski, his former assistant, who's the head coach, put together. They drove up here and played. We lost to them. They'll have a lot of fans there, as will Oklahoma. So we're on the side of Texas, I believe. They advance. So, all right. let's say here, switching gears, Barone71 on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, QB, were there any differences between the film study for college and NFL? Figure a player may have less time in college, but are there any other differences? Yeah, time is different because in the pros, it's your job. Uh, in college, back when I played, you only had a couple of hours of film time. Nowadays, the kids have all these iPads they take home and watch tape. Uh, in college, there's usually a couple of weak links on every defense, even the Alabamas and the Georgias that you can pick on. The NFL, there's usually no weak link. You just got to find some ball plays that may work. Dan,
Let me fix this for you. I got the information since I'm going to ask. Yes, they're on the side of Texas. It's Alabama, and UCLA, and Duke and Oklahoma on one side. Then it's Stanford and Texas, and then Oklahoma State and Florida. That's how it lines up.
Yeah, for sure. Michael says Mouse is elite. Yes, track is an elite program. I would say
that I'll give you. Yeah, for sure.
If you were ranking the elite programs on campus, in my opinion, you would go track, softball, gymnastics, maybe volleyball, then baseball. That's the order I would put them in right now. All right. John on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, says, what are our chances going out to Stillwater and winning, and what does Sully do with Cags? That's a great question. It's not really a weekend series now. So Cags has been our best pitcher. Speaking of Cags signed a deal with Onward Reserve. He has these T-shirts they're selling. I don't know if a lot of our listeners know what Onward Reserve is, but it's a clothing line. It's great stuff. Started by a Georgia guy about 10 years ago. Great clothing line, but he has a T-shirt now that has his picture and stuff on the back. That's pretty cool if you want to check that out. What do you do, buddy, if you're Sully with the Cags and their pitchers for game one? You got to win it. I mean,
I started because that's my best guy, and I got to win. And it's a late night game, as we know, on Thursday night. As you say, scheduled for 9:30. Who knows when it'll start? But I know it's not a series, but I think you got to get up. They got to get this momentum going the right way and win that first game over Nebraska, who I hear is a light hitting team. I don't know much about them. That's a game that would be good to have under your belt, get you a little momentum, and maybe get one of the other guys to start throwing. A couple of other pitchers are throwing pretty decent. I watched them last weekend. They got other players. Their overall game is just not there at this point in time. They need to get a couple of wins to get that ship righted. I think they could do it with Cags on the mound in game one. By the way, don't call the mound in baseball the bump, okay? That's a softball term. I hate that. It's a
it's not in softball. Softball is a circle. There is no bump in softball.
There's no bump in baseball. It's called a bump.
It's a bump. It's a bump in the.
I pitched for a long time. We never called it a bump. I'm calling it a mound. That's what it is.
Okay. Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. We got Buddy Martin here. We'll have Chris Harry here momentarily. 31 Ember wants to know, is U.S. pitching good enough to win the World Series? Yes. Keegan Rothrock is elite. You're going to have your bumps in the road, which she did in game 2. But, yeah, she's elite. This is one of Tim's best teams he's had. Now, does that mean they're going to win it? No. I mean, if you had to put a gun to my head right now, Oklahoma's going to win the World Series. They're that good.
Well, this team is coming to its own the last 12 games. I mean, they lost one game out of 12, and they're playing so well. And as you point out, their first 5 or 6 players made All SEC. And by the way, that second game they lost, you don't see Skylar Wallace booting the ball like she did there. That didn't happen. But this team is so good. Hey, can Skylar Wallace steal a base or what? Oh my gosh, she's amazing. I just enjoy watching them play. But yeah, I think this is going to be a fun time, and be nice to see Tim get the team to the finals at least, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tough. There's between Oklahoma State, Texas, and Oklahoma and UCLA. Those are some very good teams. Joseph says he's pretty sure that Pierce Capola will be starting the first game,
Yeah, I
Cagney
think
going
he's
game
pitching
2.
pretty good right now, Shane. What I saw, he throws at 92, 93, and looks like he's got pretty good command. I think he looks like he may be coming around. Sully's team is just late developing, and then what they got to get some more players, obviously. But
Oh, these people crack me up. I'm not going to get Buddy fired up though.
bring it on. I'm a big boy. I can handle it.
So 31 Ember says, Buddy, you pitched 100 years ago. Things have changed a bit.
Mm-hmm. And the bases are still the same distance apart. And
They play with bigger bases today, though.
they do. Yeah. And what is that two bases thing, two first base thing they got going on?
Well, they experiment. They do that in high school softball. I'm surprised they haven't gone that to in college softball.
Well, they had it in the SEC.
Right, they're experimenting with it.
What does that do? I don't quite get that.
It's to reduce injuries, people stepping on the first baseman's legs, things of that nature. If you saw in the what game was it? One of the super regionals. I want to say it was A&M in Texas, which is a heated rivalry. The girl at first base for the Longhorns got her foot just demolished by the girl running down first base. A lot of words were exchanged. I think that was the game. So that's why. Just it's a safety deal. Dan says Stanford's pitcher Kennedy reminds me of Danielle Laurie. If she gets hot, I wouldn't want to face her. Yeah, she is. She is a stud. She might be the best pitcher at the World Series.
By the way, Dan will be covering the Women's World Series for us. He'll be out there. So,
yeah, Chris basically explained it a lot better than I did, sitting here talking about it being a safety deal. He says it's to avoid collisions at first base as well. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Jim on the Facebook Live brought to you by Mellon says, does Florida softball have some sufficient NIL to remain competitive with Oklahoma and others at that level? I will say when you put Oklahoma in the equation, no. A lot of their girls are making like close to $1 million playing softball. I do know that they have people raising money, some people that sponsor this program that are very involved with the Florida softball team, and kudos to them. I saw them Friday with a bunch of donors because we got some girls that hopefully stay on the team next year. This very, very young softball team for sure.
Yeah.
Shane,
speaking of donors, you heard what Sankey said out in Destin, right up here on the road from me, talking about lawsuits. Didn't say much, but he addressed it right off the bat when he started out, and obviously it's out there. We'll be hearing more and more about it. So I'm hopeful we can get past that. I do think once we get to the fall, a lot of this stuff's going to be behind us, and we'll be able to see some football games, and we'll get talking about what's on the field and not in a court of law. But obviously, Sankey has to address it. It's not going to go away. And we had Jeffrey Meldon on last night talking about some of the things that is going on. And one of the things is the attorneys on the Rashada case. He says they don't particularly want to get it resolved. They don't want to sell it because they want the publicity out there because there are many other athletes looking for representation. That's how they get their money. So interesting enough, that's a little piece of information I didn't know from Jeffrey.
Yeah, I'm not worried one bit about this lawsuit. I don't think Billy Napier or Hugh Hathcock are worried about it either. Not going to have any bearing on our football season.
I agree on that.
NBA, if you missed it last night, the Celtics sweep the Pacers tonight. You probably see the Mavericks sweep. Al Horford, who's playing, I think he's 37 or 38 years old, has a chance to finally win his first
ring. Amazing.
Yeah, he has not won an NBA championship and has an opportunity to do it this year. Which, I mean, they're the best team. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but hopefully they do for his sake.
Yeah, it would be nice to see Al get him another piece of jewelry.
Robert says the softball team was flying on a Rolls-Royce plane. I don't know about that. That plane they were flying on had freaking propellers on it.
Like the Blue Goose of old days.
Yeah.
Did you ever find the Blue Goose? You didn't. It was right. You
The
never
Blue
had.
Goose.
Yeah.
What's that?
Team playing Florida.
No, football always, the school always had a little plane for basketball and smaller sports that don't have a whole lot of
Yeah.
athletes to fly on. That was called Captain Jack, I believe. But no, we always flew on like a Delta charter. All right, buddy, let's get to this day in sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Puts the star power to work in your financial life at Campus USA Credit Union. 1962, The Wide World of Sports with Chris Schenkel premiered on CBS Radio. Do you remember Chris Schenkel? Wasn't he the guy that used to do the Shell's Wide World
that
of Golf?
Was Jim McKay. Jim McKay was Wide World of Sports. He was the guy.
Not Wild World of Sports. I'm talking about the Wild World of Golf, the Shell.
Oh, golf. Yeah, that was
golf
thing. That was all taped. Yeah. That was quite a successful event.
Yeah. I don't know what made that, why people watched it. I mean, I remember watching it when it was like
because they put the best players together. It was like it was like the Skins game. And the Skins game came along later. It wasn't even live though. And it was taped, and they would go to some venue and they'd have Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player or whatever. They had some wonderful pairings. Yeah. Chris Schenkel was the voice of college football. He came along with, he didn't do the he's before, obviously, the game exploded, but he was there early on. He wasn't that good, but we thought he was good.
All right, before we get you out of here, Dan says OU's new softball stadium is something to see, and they put up a big parking garage a block away. Their new softball stadium is better than, I'm gonna throw it out there, and somebody can do the research and tell me why I'm wrong. I bet it's better than 70% of college baseball stadiums. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Dan has been out there and he's seen it. Have you seen it?
No, they just moved into it this year.
Yeah, I said Dan has been there recently and saw it. He's going to be out there with it. Yeah, that's amazing. The facilities they have out there now for sports like that, Shane. My gosh, now the first program I saw that really looked like they were stepping it up was Arkansas. About 20 years ago, they started doing good things, and they put a ton of money into it. It's paid off. And who knew softball and baseball would be revenue sports? You know, the facilities they got. Although the softball team is, how big is Presley? It's pretty small, isn't it?
They redid it a few years ago. It's a good little facility, but it's outdated. They need something new.
Yeah.
They probably won't get it for a while, but it's too small now.
Yeah.
They turn people away. All right, buddy, we got to get to Chris Harry. Real quick, this last thing. This is from John on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. It says, I saw Frank Frangie interviewed Billy Napier, which I think he interviewed Billy when Billy was at the Jacksonville Gator Club deal. He said, any chance Napier comes either one of y'all's shows? I highly doubt. I'm not going to ask Billy to come on my show. He's got way too much stuff going on. I'd rather him concentrate on other stuff than come on my program.
That's not true, Shane. And you're one of the key guys on the broadcast team. You're a man of note, and he needs don't look at me like that. He needs to be on not my show.
But buddy, I look at it from a different standpoint, because there's a lot of people I don't want to bother, because I know they have a lot going on.
You're the media personality, closely associated. You're our expert on college football, on Florida Gator football, and he needs to talk to you. Now, to stop cutting him slack like that. It's his job to do that, and he's hating on it.
His job is to win damn football games, not come on my show.
I know, but Shane, that's not. Talk about 100-year-old thinking. That's it right there. The bottom line is he needs to be on certain. He should be on with Frangie. Should be on with you. You're his guy.
Well, he doesn't go on Frangie's show. He was there because Frank was set up at the event.
I want to see you interview Billy Napier. I want you to ask him questions. We all want it. I guarantee your listeners want it. The fans want it. So don't ever say he's too busy. That's his job, Shane. You think the head dog wasn't busy? He
wasn't going on anybody's show. I could promise you that.
Who, Steve?
No.
He went on my show then. What are you talking about?
When he was coaching.
Yes, he went on shows.
All right, we'll have to check on that. All right, buddy, we got to take a time out.
All right,
have a good day, buddy.
That again like that. Goodbye, Shane.
All right, that's Buddy Martin joining us on the Titan MR hotline. Courtesy of Comfort Temp. Take a quick time out. We'll have Chris Harry from FloridaGators.com. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union.
Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Our gridiron sponsors are UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker Sporting Goods. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. We're going to go back to the Titan MR hotline. Courtesy of Comfort Temp, we're joined by one of the senior writers at FloridaGators.com, Chris Harry. Good morning, Chris. How you doing?
Shane, how are you today?
Good. It's kind of downtime for you boys since we only have a couple of sports still playing. But
what are you talking about? I worked all Memorial Weekend.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do when you work for the Gators. Let's start first because you're the basketball guy. Mm-hmm. Good news for the Gators. Walter's coming back. Will's coming back. I think we all thought they were coming back, but Ty Golden's got to be happy, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the nucleus of his team is back. I mean, I think we've spoken about this in the time we talked before. This time last year, they were returning basically two guys that had played in, I believe it was Riley Kugel and Will Richard. Now you're talking about Will Richard. You're talking about Walter Clayton Jr. You got Alex Condon. You got Tommy Hawk. You got Denzel Aberdeen. Those are four really core guys from a team that won 24 games. You add the three transfer players coming in, the two bigs, and Elijah Martin from Florida Atlantic, and there's your basically your rotation. They still got two open scholarships. I'm not sure what they're going to do with those guys. They have a freshman coming in also by the name of you're going to get me here. It's Elijah. What time is it anyway? It's like, is it 8:30 yet? I'm on my first.
No, 8:29.
8:29. Okay, Elijah Moore, I believe his name is. I have not seen him play. Only tape of him playing. They really like him. He's like a wing kind of player. Actually, I have seen him play a little bit in the gym up here. But like I said, that's your core players. If they did land Zion Pullen about this time last year when he begged out of the NBA underclassmen process. I don't know if like late breaking kind of find is gonna come like that. But like I say, they have two scholarship openings. If there's some guys still straggling in the portal or whatever, or something happens, they may make a move. But that that is their team right now. And those guys aren't coming in until June 10th to start working out. It's a little later than it has been normally. There's some rules situations. A lot of guys are doing stuff online. Alex Condon is in Australia. A lot of the guys went home. So they haven't really dove in earnest into the off-season stuff, but they're doing stuff on their own wherever they are. So we'll have a little more to talk about next time you and I visit.
You mean
Relative.
there are actually rules? I didn't think there were any rules in college athletics today's world. We got a text here on the Titan our text line from Jimmy. He says, Chris, did you ever have any run-ins with Bill Walton?
Run-ins? No.
I don't think he meant by like run-ins like that, but did you ever
I actually
meet him or talk
but
with
one
him?
time I actually did obviously he was at some games that I did, but we were in Portland for the first time for the PK80, and that's the one time he was there with Dave Pash. And I got a chance to visit with him. That was the epic I think he did the Gonzaga game, the Florida Gonzaga double overtime game with Chioza and Jalen Hudson, and really one of the best basketball games I'd ever seen. And I did get to visit with him. In fact, I tweeted out a picture of a selfie I took with the two of us. I remember my guy I work with, Denver Parlor. He played on a basketball team growing up in Iowa, where they had a set. Denver's about 6'5", and he was the center on this team. They had this Bill Walton, either it was an offense or defensive set that they ran all the time. He goes, "Can you please take a picture? I want to send this to my buddy." So I got this picture of him with Bill Walton, and he was always accommodating like that. I read a great obit in the about him. He wasn't always, he was kind of prickly dealing with the media, and then when he became a media, like a lot of you guys, Shane, you're jerks in the locker room a lot of times.
Absolutely.
And then you become media, and you got to deal with the media. I kind of like Sterling Sharp and guys like you.
Mhm.
Bill Walton was always really, really accommodating and stuff like that. So he was great. I'm old enough to remember watching that Memphis State game as about a 12-year-old kid, 13-year-old kid or whatever. And that was he one of the greatest basketball players of all time, certainly one of the greatest college players of all time.
Yeah, I had no idea he had been sick battling cancer. That surprised
Nobody
me.
nobody knew.
Nobody. They kept it that quiet. Wow. All right, Chris, let's switch gears. Obviously, you covered the Lady Gator softball team as well. And this will be their 12th trip under Tim Walton going to OKC. I personally, from the numbers, I don't know anything about all that. My eyes tell me this is one of his better teams he's had. Now, does that mean they're going to win it? You got to battle with Oklahoma and Texas if you get far enough. But I think they're outstanding. I think they have a chance. Just give me your thoughts. You've been covering them all year long.
Well, they certainly found out who they are, and they played their best softball, I think, the last 6 weeks of the season. Now, having said that, I don't think they played their best against Baylor. They certainly didn't hit their best, and of course, you got to credit what Baylor pitchers were able to do on that front. They got to get those bats going back at top of the lineup. I was just doing some notes here. I think there were 16 of 70 in the super regional, which is they hit 229 as a team, and Skylar was 5 for 8. You take her out of that, and they're under 200. Kendra Falby was 0 for 11 in the.
She's in a big slump right now.
She is. I think she's 5 for 31 in the whole postseason. Now, everyone thinks of Skylar Wallace as the. Someone asked Tim Walton this, that she's the straw that stirs the drink. He goes, no, Kendra Falby's the start. She needs to be on base, because when she's on base early, then Jocelyn Erickson gets up. She's the RBI leader in the SEC this year. But they need some more stuff around. I'm looking at right now, Kendra, Jocelyn, and Corby were a combined 2 for 24 against Baylor. They can't take that to Oklahoma City. Obviously, Oklahoma State is a very, very good team. Tim and Kenny Jaeski know each other very, very well. Last time when they met in the World Series was 2 years ago. Oklahoma State shut them out. I think the pitcher who did it is now pitching for Oklahoma, and I think that's a kind of a dead to me kind of transfer from one program to the other. But yeah, the bats need to wake up, and we'll see. He'll have a plan for that. he'll have a plan for that. But to your original point, is this one of their best teams? I think certainly one of the most explosive hitting teams. Anybody can hit. I mean, you got Mia Williams jacking home runs like that, and I mean, she's almost feast or famine kind of, right? She's gonna strike out. She's gonna hit homers. She's hit 6 homers this year. 3 of them have been in really, really big moments in the postseason. The 2 in the SEC tournament, and then the one against Baylor to kind of set the tone. So, young pitching staff. I think he mentioned he thinks it's the only team in SEC since the SEC expansion in 2013 that returned no
pitchers
from its roster before. So that's a credit to Chelsea Dobbins, the new pitching coach. It's a credit to those young freshmen, and certainly big shout out to Keegan Rothrock for winning 30 games and losing only 7 in her freshman season. Of course, she was the #1 pitching prospect in the country, so she's kind of playing to her accolades.
Yeah. This is a text on the Titan More text line from William. He says, Chris, can you tell us what the biggest difference covering female athletes at Florida compared to the male athletes?
Is there any way I can get myself in trouble for answering this?
Well, I will probably let me answer that for you. I don't do it, but they're probably happy to speak to you when the male athletes know they have to do it, but they don't really want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but I think they get a little worn out with it this time of year because they're doing a lot of media and stuff like that. But to your point about being like Parker Valby, you know who she is?
Oh yeah. She might be the most decorated female athlete we've ever had.
Before it's all said and done, she's certainly in the conversation right now. Has worked her way in the conversation and will even more so in the next. I mean, she does not like doing media at all.
Really?
No. And I did a story on her last week because it took over a year to get her to talk, and we got her for like 5 minutes after her race here at the SEC championship. She just doesn't like to do it. But I mean, we'll see how she deals with it when she's she's in international demand, assuming she makes the Olympics. Certainly going to be in big time national demand if she runs at the trials or whatever. But there's not a whole lot. I mean, what I do in my role, a lot of the athletes know me because I'm around a lot. So they're easy to talk to. I mean, most of them are so good. If they're at Florida, they're good, and they've dealt with media before. So as prep prospects and what have you. So not a whole lot of different. I just deal with the guys more just because of the nature of my job description and how I handle the covering basketball.
Yeah. Daniel on the Titan More text line. This is interesting. He says, Chris, I'd like your take. Shane and Buddy are always arguing about Florida softball being an elite program. What are your thoughts on that?
But you and Buddy argue whether or not it's an elite program?
Yeah, so Buddy, because they had a down year last year, does not think they're elite. And because they have not won a national title since what,
2015.
But my whole thing is when you go to the World Series 12 out of 20 years and you play for 5 national titles, I think you're pretty elite.
Well, I mean, there isn't anybody in this quote unquote national softball community that wouldn't think Florida's an elite program. So I've never seen Buddy at a softball game. So I remember seeing an exchange between you two a few weeks back. I think it was on Facebook when I was scrolling in the morning and you were on live, and Buddy was rolling down the spring sports that needed to get going. He goes, softball needs to get going. And you go, they're 31-6, Buddy. He goes, yeah, but they haven't beaten anybody. Okay, so maybe we can chalk up their turnaround to Buddy's assessment because they went ahead and I think they went on a run at one time where they beat 6 top 15 RPI teams in a row during that 11-game winning streak that got them to the super region.
Yep. So good luck to those girls.
To answer your question, I think they're an elite program. Yeah.
I do too. I got a basketball question for you here. John on Facebook Live. He says, Chris, with the current lineup constructed, who do you see running the point? Clayton played much better off the ball last year, in my opinion. With those last two spots, could we go after a point guard? Are there any left? Isn't the guy from is the guy from Florida Atlantic a point guard?
No, he's not really. He's more
Oh,
like
no?
he's more like a Walter.
Okay.
Type. Yeah, and so no one would say Walter Clayton is a point guard, and there's some, just calling it like it is. There's some situations late in games last year. Walter had the ball in the hand where he turned the ball over. A lot of people remember there was Vanderbilt, there was Virginia. I'll say there was I think Alabama maybe on the road. Now, having said all this stuff, they have a guy in the building who has a lot on his plate right now, and his name is Torian Green, and his title is Director of Player Development, and he was, let's call it like it is, maybe the greatest point guard in Florida basketball history. Maybe can he be in that conversation, you think, Shane?
Yeah.
And he was also a guy who scored. I wouldn't say he wasn't definitive point guard kind of guy, like I would say like an Eddie Shannon or even a Jason Williams, because he was a shooter. He could score, he could attack, but he knew how to run an offense. And he's going to be in the gym with those two guys, Elijah Martin and Walter Clayton, and Denzel Aberdeen. Let's not forget about Denzel Aberdeen, because he's the closest thing who I would call a prototypical point guard. We saw a lot of him playing the two last year, probably a little more so than we saw him on the ball. But those three guys I just mentioned are going to be in the gym a lot when they get back here with Torian Green, who's going to try to turn those guys into more definitive point guards. What happens when opponents recognize that Florida doesn't have a true point guard who can beat a press? They're gonna get up on the ball. They're gonna full court pressure them and see if Florida can handle that. And the coaches understand this. They're gonna have to do something about it. And right now, they got 11 guys to deal with until they get another point guard. You know who I didn't mention? And let's not undersell the potential of Kais Kablikis making some kind of a jump from freshman to sophomore year. Remember, he played with pros over there in Lithuania, and we watched him in practice. He knows what he's doing. He's just not SEC athletic. At least he wasn't. But I saw toward the end of the year, before he went back to Lithuania toward the end of the semester, he was up to 184 pounds. He was working. He was one of the only guys in the gym all the time. Let's not sell him. Sure, I'm not saying he's going to do it, but that's just another name to watch. And he is a definitive point guard on the team, a guy who can handle the ball. He just hasn't had a lot of opportunity to do it at the SEC level. He did it a lot overseas in Lithuania. He just hadn't done a lot here.
Tony's question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. Any fun out of conference games for hoops other than the Charlotte game?
That'll be against North Carolina. I'm just trying to. Well,
are we not playing in one of those? Aren't we playing in one of those Thanksgiving tournaments?
Yes, but it's in Orlando. It's going to be, they do that thing at the Milk House or whatever the hell it's called.
Yes,
now.
During Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, usually it's for the longest time. It's been I think it's been a 8-team thing. Florida played it in 2016, I believe, last. I think it's been reduced. It was a 3-game tournament, kind of like out in Portland with a day off in between. I think they're going to turn it into a 4-team thing, and so it'll just be 2 back-to-back days, kind of like the one they played in a couple years ago. Excuse me, down in Fort Myers, that they won actually with beating California and Ohio State. So those are the only 2 in terms of. They're not any sexy home and homes on the schedule, and I think they think that's probably a good idea, considering welcome Texas and Oklahoma onto that schedule. So they got quite a conference schedule looking down the barrel of that this year.
Yeah. So you go to OKC today. Is Scott going with baseball out to Stillwater?
Stillwater?
All right, so it's interesting. Y'all are
Yeah, I
only
could do
going to be
both. Like I should just drive.
what's it about 30 miles away? 30, 40 miles?
Yeah, it's an hour. It's about an hour and 10 minutes. I actually looked at it. So, but don't get any ideas.
I guarantee you, Scott Carter will be driving over to OKC to go to Brick City.
I guarantee he will not be.
He won't do that.
I tell
He
you
won't
what.
do that.
So we're in the Gators are playing the late game. So when you're in that late game vortex,
That game is going to start at like 11
I was
Eastern
gonna say
time.
it says 9:30. What time do you think?
No chance.
Yeah,
You're going to have tornado warnings. There's going to be weather. Games are going to extra innings. There's no way that game starts at 9:30.
No, because the first game starts at 7, and then you got to have the time to warm up in between. I don't even know what what are they doing? What are they even pretending like that? So
yeah, I don't know why they don't do that because normal in the regular season it seems like games go by really fast in softball. That's a great beauty about the sport. It moves fast. But postseason play, the game slows down, and you usually are pitching duels, and you get a lot of extra inning games. So
and you get a lot more commercials in between the breaks because guess what? It's about money.
Yeah,
we're trying to make money even more so now, right?
Very, 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 very true. Just your thoughts on baseball, getting into the tournament. Now anything can happen, but it looks like one of our listeners said they think Pierce Capola is going to start game 1. Do you think they should throw Cags game 1?
I mean, maybe I got it is be you when you get to a term you got to win the first game. Otherwise, you're in that every at bat, every out is a pressure kind of thing, and you want to be at least trying to survive out of the winner's bracket. I'm not going to sit here and tell Sully. Sully knows what he's dealing with. I mean, it's
Right.
it's a crapshoot with that pitching staff. I know from what I understand. I mean, there wasn't a lot of drama whether or not Florida got in, given that strength of schedule that they played. So I don't know anything about the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Okay. I'm trying to lock in on the
Tommy Frazier's not playing for them.
Oklahoma
We do know
State
that.
Cowgirls, buddy boy. But Florida certainly has offensive firepower to stay in the game. Whether or not they can keep runners off the base pass, that's been the question for them all season, and it'll be the question for them. I imagine in an NCAA tournament. I don't see why it would be any different.
Live a healthier lifestyle with our bold, flavorful smoothies and our amazing food. Tropical smoothie. When you eat better, you feel better. A few more minutes with Chris Harris from FloridaGators.com. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. I know you're not in football mode right now, but everybody is. The meetings are in Destin, I think, this week. Adam's question to me, and I want to get your thoughts. He says, this is on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum. Shane, what's your expectations for Gator football this year? What's realistic expectations? Look, I'm optimistic. I understand we've had some losing seasons. I think this is Billy's best team that he's going to have from a talent depth standpoint. Embrace the schedule. It looks hard on paper, but who cares? Chris, I firmly believe we should start the season, if things go well, we should start 5-0.
5-0. So
well, you got 4
Tennessee in the first 5?
No, there's the 6th game. So you start with Miami at home. You got to win the game. It's that simple. You got to win it. I think Sanford is game 2. You got to win it. UCF's at home. You got to win it. And A&M's at home. And then you go to Mississippi State somewhere in there. So, I mean, I like what they have on offense. I love our running back room. Do these new additions at the wide receiver position help us? It's all going to come down to the front 7 on defense. Can we rush the passer, affect the quarterback, and tackle somebody? If we do that, I think we win a bunch of football games.
I know. What did you say? They were going to win 9 games last year. That's what you were on record for.
I said they'd win. I think I said 8. I think I said they'd go 8-4 was my pick in the summertime, which I still think they should have won at least 7. But we can sit here and say this, that, and the other, whatever. But this team is a lot better, in my opinion. You still got to go win games on Saturdays.
But I'm with you on it's. I mean, what did the offense average? 32 points a game last season. I mean, it's. Are you going to stop anybody? Are you gonna 3 interceptions last season? You're not going to win a lot of games if you're not and that's amazing that the offense was able to average 32 points a game when your defense isn't helping you out relative to getting in positive field position with turnovers and what have you. So I think that's where the microscope is, because Graham Hurts is going to be pretty good. He was pretty good last year. How they want to move those two quarterbacks around a little bit, or how they're going to do that, because they're going to have to keep DJ Lagway engaged, and they're probably going to want to keep him engaged just to keep the defenses off balance and what have you. Get him a taste of something looking down the line, but. Like I tell anybody who asks me about this stuff, Shane, I mean, they could be a lot, like you say. I do agree that this is his most talented roster, and they could have a similar record as last year and still be a much, much better team, just because of the strength of that schedule, I think.
Yeah. And it's ball's got to bounce our way, but I try to be optimistic, because I try to tell people, Chris, and you understand this, because it doesn't matter if it's the football, the basketball program, the softball program, they're working out. They expect to win every game. They're not looking at the schedule and going, "Oh no, we may only win 2 games."
That's a fan thing.
That's a fan thing, and those guys are busting their ass, and they expect to win every game when they run out of the tunnel. Right. And
so does the other team. So does the other team.
Exactly. Right. And, there's a lot of teams on our schedule that had great seasons last year, but that doesn't translate. They either lost a quarterback, they may have lost their head coach. There's a lot of things that can play out. So embrace the schedule. You've been bitching about the schedule, not playing quality opponents and cupcakes. Well, you got one, Sanford, who ain't really a cupcake, because the league they play in is like the SEC of FCS football. So
didn't they come in here and score 58 a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Weren't they up by 3 touchdowns? They were up by 3 touchdowns.
It was a track meet. Yeah. Yeah. So Chris, appreciate your time. Have a safe trip. I wonder, is Toby Keith's bar still open out there? I'm sure it has to be, right?
I mean, I haven't been there in 2 years, and I understand what happened, recently and everything. But I would imagine it. I think he was still open on Broad Street, if I'm not mistaken, in Nashville. Yeah, so
well, have a good trip.
Yes.
Hopefully, you'll be out there for about 4 or 5 days, because that means we're winning games. So have fun out there. Appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk to you soon, my man.
Take care, Shane. See you.
Yeah, that's Chris Harry from FloridaGators.com, who does a tremendous job covering the Gator athletics for us there on the website. Got to get to this read here. Comfort Temp Heating and Air is looking for an enthusiastic, motivated comfort specialist to join our team. $1,000 sign-on bonus after 90 days. Awesome benefits and the opportunity to grow with the winning team. Apply today at ComfortTemp.com. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Again, I want to thank Buddy and Chris Harry for joining us on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Baron says his expectations for Florida football is as such. Go 4-0 in non-conference, beat TAMU and Mississippi State. That gets you to 6 wins, and then see how many more wins can be had. Yeah, I mean, I'm not on the Tennessee or the Kentucky bandwagons. We have to beat the Kentucky Wildcats this year. It's that simple. Find a way to get it done. Hope you enjoyed today's program. We'll have Mike Morgan and JC here tomorrow. Have a great day, folks. Take care.